So, The Apprentice is the story of a young, up-and-coming real estate investor named Donald Trump, right? Hot out of New York. His dad, Fred Trump, is obviously a successful businessman. And our young Donald meets a lawyer, Roy Cohn, at a party one evening, who he finds himself uniquely charmed by because Roy Cohn is a powerhouse, right? He takes no shit from nobody. Roy Cohn, played by Jeremy Strong, is a bit of a figure for Donald to look up to. And Donald, played by Sebastian Stan, very much takes the opportunity to learn everything he can from Roy, hopefully help his dad get out of some trouble with the feds regarding some recent rental opportunities or missed opportunities at their apartments. And along the way, they kind of develop a relationship, Donald and Roy. Roy teaches Donald about his infamous 3 rules of winning. And from there, Donald kind of takes the mantle as the Donald Trump that we know today. The movie stars Sebastian Stan, Jeremy Strong, and Maria Bakalova as Ivana Trump. It's directed by Ali Abbasi. It's been making headlines this year because of its subject matter, who it's about, and the fact that we're in an election year. There have been various figures, I should say, decrying the movie, including Donald Trump himself, who says it's not an accurate representation of him. Director Ali Abbasi, meanwhile, says that it is not exactly accurate, right? It is a bit of entertainment, and that he thinks that it's, not quite as divisive as people say. But we've watched it. We saw it in theaters. Now I'm excited to talk about it. Andy, what did you think of The Apprentice?
So when we were approaching this weekend and we were going to watch Saturday Night and The Apprentice, I expected to like Saturday Night more and The Apprentice to maybe be a bit of a chore, but it turned out to be the exact opposite because I was kind of glued to The Apprentice from the beginning. The style, it's shot in this very grainy way, not quite 4:3 ratio, but we get this fascinating portrait, and I didn't. There's a question of like, why would I want to watch this, whether or not you support Donald Trump or not? It's kind of, it's a good question. But Ali Abbasi has done a great job of kind of humanizing the figure. At the beginning, we get this person that's very not confident. They want to break into kind of these bigger circles, meets Roy Cohn, takes him on as the aforementioned apprentice, and you see this person, it's a very Faustian, lose their humanity, become a monster, become the devil. I've been saying that this is kind of a Frankenstein story in a lot of ways. I think it's done purposefully. It's also very strong thematically, because I think it's not an indictment of Trump himself as much as it's an indictment of the American dream, of communism, of corrupt government, of patriotism, all these kinds of things. Like, he's saying a lot about a lot of different things, not just the political figure. And I think that, man, this is how you should do biopics. You should still be trying to say something, not just tell the story of a person we all know.
Yeah, I'm impressed at how grounded The Apprentice manages to feel, because its characters are so lofty in society, right? Like, Donald Trump is obviously a former president. He is currently running for president. Everybody has seen a lot of this man over the last 9 or 10 years. That's assuming you weren't keeping up with him before when he was building casinos and hotels, right? Like, he was a big New York figurehead. He obviously has a lot of property in Florida, like larger than life kind of personality. And I went in knowing very little about Roy Cohn. I've heard him called like the most evil lawyer in the whole world, like the devil incarnate, right? Like, I've heard terrible things about this man, but I didn't know anything about him. I was like, I want to go in fresh. I think that's probably the best way to go on this movie. I don't want to Wikipedia these people. And the movie also manages to portray this man as functionally a grounded individual. That's what's so impressive, that like, for these characters that are so big, Apprentice manages to make them feel so uniquely human. It manages to almost like draw a little empathy from you, the audience members, for these people. Young Donald is surprisingly innocent, surprisingly soft, right? Like, which I think not a lot of people expect. Additionally, Roy Cohn has a softness to him that you gotta get to see a little bit, that was not shown in public, right? You get to learn a little bit about his personal relationships. And all of that's really interesting. Ivana Trump gets a lot of screen time, a lot more than I expected. Maria Bakalova really uses it as this kind of doe-eyed blonde woman who doesn't really know the way things work, but very quickly has to learn because of her relationship with her husband Donald and the kind of people he's tied up in. It's a combination of, I think, like the lo-fi presentation, like that 4:3 kind of screen ratio, as well as like a silly amount of film grain that does not hurt the picture. I actually like the film grain. In fact, later in the movie, I was trying to tell if it upgrades when they go to the 80s to almost like VHS scan lines. Like it almost looks a little different than the open. Could be that way the whole way through. I'd have to watch it again to tell you for sure. And also like a lot of handheld makes this movie like feel uniquely like special and its own. It doesn't feel like anything else. Watching it, I kept thinking of like Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street, and Wolf of Wall Street has so much more polish, and this like intentionally goes the other way. It feels grounded. It feels street. It feels almost grimy at times, and like that's so much more special than like just making a generic blockbuster biopic. Like uniquely its own personality and presentation.
Yeah, I love the way it looks. It moves like it has this kind of pumping soundtrack that I really enjoyed. I'm gonna add it to my ongoing film soundtrack playlist on Spotify.
Yeah.
One thing that really sticks out to me is we got to talk about this performance by Sebastian Stan. Poor Sebastian Stan. He said in multiple interviews that he like has hundreds of photos and videos on his phone that he watches of Donald Trump from the earliest they could find, interviews from the 70s, 80s, 90s up to the present, to kind of trying to capture the essence. And he does a good job of like he doesn't do the voice. That's the first thing you notice. He's not trying to impersonate Donald Trump's voice. It's more of like the attitude, the mannerisms, the look, the bravado. And he doesn't start out that way. He's very kind of unsure at the beginning. He's kind of like, I don't know who these big important people are. I'm just trying to break in. And then you see him slowly over the course of the movie adopt more and more of this attitude. And after a while, Roy Cohn goes from being like, oh, I'm proud of you, boy. Like I've taught you all my dirty secrets and you're great at it. And then he's like loses control and he realizes he's created this person that has taken all his teachings to heart and is being very successful. But he's also created a monster. And Sebastian Stan, I think, just doing the best work of his career in this, and it was really a toll. I mean, he had to put on 15 pounds, had to do like hair and makeup for long days, long shoots. But he's not doing a caricature. He's not doing a bad impression. He is slowly becoming the person we all know over the course of the film. And I think it's a really incredible performance. And I heard in an interview, Sebastian Stan was saying, he was like, Trump is funny. He's like, you look at his old interviews from the 70s, like he would everyone laugh on those interviews on late night and stuff. And, even if you hate the guy, you still, like we were saying, Sebastian Stan does a great job of humanizing a person that we kind of know as a cartoon character now.
Oh man, you're teeing me up to talk about Jeremy Strong, which rocks. Sebastian Stan is incredible, and one of my favorite things about his performance is that he does not start as being some kind of like mocking Donald Trump. He actually starts the movie as a pretty blank page. Like the young Donald Trump in this film is pretty new to the world and just kind of figuring it out, and just has some of the influences of his father's empire. He lives in like a crappy apartment. Like he's going around collecting rent from people who don't want to pay it. Like, is not in a good place. And he grows over the course of the movie to start to slide into the person we know today as Donald Trump. He just starts to pick up some of the mannerisms. He starts, like, his mouth forms words and consonants the same way. He starts to do like the hand motions thing. It's impressive. Like, it's subtle. And like by the end of the movie, he's much closer to Donald Trump now. And that progression is baked into Stan's performance. He does a fantastic job. Meanwhile, Jeremy Strong as Roy Cohn is incredible. I'm a Succession head. Like, I think Jeremy Strong absolutely should have got an Emmy for that show, probably more than one. He totally didn't. Here in Apprentice, like, he is doing, again, just like another level of work. Like, he is so into this performance as Cohn, who does not have a lot to go on. Like, I went looking for stuff about Roy Cohn, and like, I think research on him would be a lot more difficult than Trump. He didn't exactly go on late night. Like, you had to kind of really dig into who this guy was and the lifestyle he lived and who he was behind closed doors, which is even more challenging, to get this guy who's like this no nonsense, take shit from nobody lawyer who like presents raw power at all times and has these like kind of incredible 3 rules for winning that he like bestows to Donald over the course of the movie. It's fantastic. Like the two of them are tremendous in this movie. And then, like I mentioned, Maria Bakalova earlier. She's also a lot of fun. My girl needs more work. I like her a lot. Every time she pops up in a movie, I'm like, oh yeah, she's great. Like I no complaints about her. Like the three of them managed to hold down this movie really tight. Like it would not work as well, I think, with other actors and actresses. Like they are kind of the beating heart of this feature.
Yeah, Jeremy Strong in the first half, he's stealing the show, and I almost when I was watching it, I was like, is he going to kind of steal the show from Sebastian Stan? And he doesn't because Sebastian Stan gets his time in the second half. But yeah, it's interesting when they first meet because Donald Trump has this problem that they're being sued by the NAACP about discrimination in their of who they're renting to, and kind of through Roy Cohn's wheeling and dealing and backroom, basically bribes and blackmail, gets the lawsuit thrown out and dismissed. And this kind of kicks off everything. And initial one, he's like, "You don't know anything, kid. I'll teach you how it works." And he's got this great speech where he says, in sports, you're taught to play the ball, not the man. He's like, in real life, it's the opposite. You play the man. You go after him. There's always a guy in charge of standing in your way. You go after him, his family, his wife, whatever. Like, and it's a win at all costs attitude that Trump takes to heart. And as he becomes a higher profile person and is in the media, that's where he starts to adopt more and more of this attitude. And I was reading that they improvised a lot of these scenes. Jeremy Strong and Sebastian Stan, where they would just have a premise and they would just go back and forth until they kind of got what they really wanted from. So there's a lot of that, and it feels very kind of natural and organic like that. It's a fascinating performance.
Yeah, Strong is really big on like very little rehearsal. He's one of those actors, which has been a lot of articles written about him. Like, your mileage may vary, but it works great in this movie. Like him and Stan just play off each other so good. They feel like friends in the moments where they're friends. They feel like adversaries when they first meet and they don't know each other that good. Like, and they kind of see this like exchange of power that they're beginning to have. Like, it's a movie that manages to feel like uniquely political and also like uniquely centered on the humans behind these figures that we know now. And like, that's impressive. Like, it's really impressive for a movie that, again, like is so low budget and so has so little money that they have to like start a Kickstarter to get a marketing campaign going for it, like not easy to do. And Ali Abbasi, I haven't seen any of his previous work, but like, I'd definitely like to go back and take a look because this is good stuff. It's a tight script by Gabriel Sherman, great soundtrack. I don't know if I have much more to say about it, Andy. What do you think?
I just wanted to talk about some of the thematic material. I mentioned it at the beginning of the review. Yes, this is a biopic. It's going to be about Donald Trump's life, but it's also about so many other things. It's about the American dream and exactly what it is, and apparently what you have to do to get it. Democracy is you see them invoke patriotism constantly. That they're like, well, we want this hotel built because New York City is the greatest city in the world and want the world to know it, and America is the greatest. Like, you start to see how like the political stuff comes into play. So that stuff is fascinating. One of the other themes about this, it's kind of about like the lack of male intimacy, like these people who are so close and wheeling and dealing, but they can't really be close to each other. There's a great moment where Fred Trump, Donald Trump's father, finally he's hard on him the whole movie, and then he finally softens up and he's like, I'm proud of you, boy. Like you've made something of yourself. You made the family proud and stuff. And Donald Trump's just like, oh, go try the escargot. It's great. Like, he cannot like say thank you, cannot like, he's like, no, that would appear weak. Same thing between Jeremy Strong and Sebastian Stan. They have a very close friendship, and Roy Cohn says like, I love you, Donald, several times, and like he never says it back, never says thank you, never thanks him for anything. And so there's this it touches on that. In the meanwhile, like the AIDS crisis is happening in the background as well, because a lot of the story takes place in the 80s. So there's a lot of fantastic themes going on in this movie as well.
Oh yeah, and funny. I forgot. Like
It is
it's
really
funny.
funny.
Even in like moments of tragedy, you get some good laughs. There's a great scene early when Trump is trying to get Cohn to take on his father's case, fighting the NAACP, and he like follows Cohn into a bathroom, and Cohn's doing his thing, and he's like, "I'm in here begging you. Look at me. I'm in a bathroom for God's sake." And then he like kind of looks over at like this bathroom attendant, and the camera whip pans over to it. And this bathroom attendant's like trying to just look like a fly against the wall, like don't pay attention to me. And then whips back into the scene, which is like really funny. Even like the presentation of Trump's brother, Freddie Trump, played by Charlie Carrick out of the UK. Is like heartbreaking, but also funny. Like he's like this failure of a drunk brother. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm the family failure. Like sad, but like in its most cynical moment, I think funny, and that's what I think The Apprentice does best. Like just like Wolf of Wall Street, of course, the Scorsese picture. Like I think people who who praise Donald Trump as a titan of industry and somebody who's done so much and has so much vision, as somebody who's kind of a hero, I think they will see that in this movie. They will see him as this kind of like hero character who came from relatively small beginnings, I think, for what the picture's presenting, and it really made something of himself, right? Like really grew and built casinos and hotels and has done all this. And then for people who vilify him, they will see that side and they'll say, look at this person who maybe started as a bit of a golden boy and became almost like a supervillain, right? Like I think the movie manages to walk that line. I also think that's part of the reason it's not exactly crushing it at the box office. I think people have already decided what they think of Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't think this movie is going to change any hearts and minds. And in that way, I think Abbasi's right. It's not supposed to. I don't think this movie is supposed to sway your opinion on who Donald Trump is or where he comes from. Like if anything, I think it's just kind of a fun ride to watch from the artist's perspective.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And Sebastian Stan was asked that question. He like who is this for? Depending on what side of the aisle are. And he had a great response that says everyone wants to be told how to think, and the only one that can make that decision is you. Like in other words, go see the movie and decide for yourself.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it's a larger indictment of like kind of capitalism and patriotism and just kind of win at all costs, the real cost of the American dream. Like it's criticizing so much about our modern day lives, not just the character.
Yeah. Andy, would you recommend The Apprentice?
I would encourage people to have a really open mind about it. It's not the kind of movie that you maybe think it's going to be about. Fantastic performances from Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump and Jeremy Strong as Roy Cohn, and the great Maria Bakalova as Ivana Trump. She's not in the film a ton, but she makes a big impact while she's there. Fantastic score as well. This was a big surprise. I highly recommend this.
Yeah, I'd recommend it as well. I'd probably say streaming. I don't think you got to kill yourself to go see this in a theater. But yeah, when it shows up and you see it on a streamer, check it out. It's 2 hours. It's a fast 2 hours. It does not feel like 2 hours. Like it moves quick. Surprisingly, like cathartic, emotional when it needs to be, funny. Like Apprentice is a good time, dude. Like I would recommend. It's a surprisingly good movie. Oh my gosh. And with that, that's the episode. A bit of show news, I should say. We talked about this last week, but I just want to make sure those in the back catch it. I am going to be out for the next couple weeks. So we're going to take a 2-week hiatus on Off Script. Long time, I know, but it's a much needed vacation. We're going to the Northeast. Me and Chris are going to travel around, hit Boston, do a little hiking, maybe go up into Canada. Really excited about it. When we get back, Andy, what are we watching?
So a lot of releases coming out here at the end of October, but we're going to be taking a look at We Live in Time, which is the rom-com dramedy comedy starring Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh. It's the end of the show. It's fine. We just talked about movies for an hour.
On everyone.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're fine.
Florence Pugh and Andrew Spider-Man.
Oh my God, me too. Yeah.
And
Garfield.
Also,
Garfield.
Thank you,
Garfield.
Garfield. Oh man, we've lost our professionalism. Venom: The Last Dance is also coming out October 25th. Where we'll be taking a look at that, which also stars Tom Hardy, and just some FYI releases. Azrael, which is kind of a short horror film that stars Samara Weaving, comes out on October 25th on Shudder. If you're Some other things. Smile 2 comes out this Friday, October 18th. Conclave, the religious Vatican drama, comes out on October 25th. And Honora on October 29th. We're going to have to catch up on all those, but we'll be back with We Live in a Time and Venom: The Last Dance.
Yes, planning on being back on Wednesday, November 6th. So mark your calendars, a couple weeks away. If you enjoyed the show today, Off Script episode 271, I think is where we're at now. My gosh. The best way you can support us is to subscribe to the show on your favorite platform of choice. If that's on video, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, where we're uploading individual reviews, shorts, all the time. Big things going on YouTube. Come sub over there. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all the usual social media places. You can follow us there as well. Our audio listeners are on, Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartMedia, Amazon Music. Love you guys. You can follow us there as well. You can leave a rating and review. Also, it'd be a big help. Just 5 stars. 5. Just casual 5. Just casual 5 stars for your boys here at Off Script. Of course, you can check out our website, offscriptfilmreview.com. And you can email us, correspond us directly at mail@offscriptfilmreview.com. My gosh, what an episode. From all of us at Off Script, the home of Bolt Cinema, I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.